Welcome back to the Global Business Report on the Rise News. How have corporate earnings so far in Nigeria fared in half year 2021? We take a look at companies in the telecom sector, in breweries, industrials, and also consumer goods. We're very privileged to have, of course, the CEO, MD of Financial Derivatives Company Limited and member of President Buhari's Presidential Advisory Council, Mr. Bismarck Rewane. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, sir. If you want, where do we begin? Telcos, or how would you like to do a review of the...
Let's talk about earnings in general.
In general. Okay.
First and foremost, 2020 was a tough year, but it was a good year for the Nigerian stock market. Best performing market in Africa, over 50% return.
Yes.
When inflation was 18%. So, good year. But enter 2021, what have we seen? We've seen volatility. We've seen choppy trading. We've seen interest rates coming back up and then going down again. So investors are kind of confused, but at the same time happy that they have options. So what have we seen? We've seen the market has lost year-to-date 2.7%, but in the last 2 months, we've seen a gain of 1.9%. What does that tell you? So we're going to start weak, but end strong this year. Now, why? There are two things, sentiment and earnings. So now that we talk about earnings, let's go back. Let's go to the real earnings, the real McCoy.
Okay.
Generally speaking, we'll take 7 companies. Of course, the one with the highest nominal growth in earnings being Dangote Cement. Obviously, we have Lafarge, we have MTN, we have Airtel, we have Nestle, we have Nigerian Breweries, and we have Total. So if we start off with MTN.
Start with MTN, okay.
Okay, MTN drop in subscriber numbers, but increase in average revenue per user.
Yes.
But also a shift in the earnings structure. Most important is that revenue was up 31%, while the sector grew 7%. It means that MTN outperformed the economy, which grew by 0.5% first quarter, outperformed its in manufacturing, and outperformed every other metric. Now, but what is interesting is that digital and fintech revenue grew by 54%.
That's huge.
Data revenue grew by 53%. Guess what? Voice went up by only 18%. SMS by about 3%. So you can see we have emphasis. Why? Yeah. Streaming. Why? News. Why? Media. Why? Settlement of transactions. And social media. So profit after tax, in any case, even in spite of this, profit after tax went up by 59%. These guys make money by going to bed. Right?
They do.
68 billion naira in a quarter, right? So how many days in a quarter? They make more than 1 billion naira a day.
Wow.
Right? So what have they done? They're investing in capacity. They're paying high taxes. And it's not just the profit of MTN. This MTN, Airtel, and all these guys are enabling other sectors to become more efficient. So productivity is so don't look at telcos in isolation. Then they have opted to construct the Enugu-Onitsha highway in the tax for project swap.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. Enugu to Onitsha. This is a death trap. This is something that, and so some companies are opting for those things. I think we should encourage them to do that. That's MTN. Now let's go further to Dangote Cement.
Dangote Cement, all right.
Very interesting story. Dangote Cement, 72% market share. Domestic sales up 33%. Right? Revenue up 57.2%. We're talking about MTN. This guy's revenue up 57.2%. Civil construction and roads, affordable housing, aggregates. It's all over the place. Expanded the operation, providing power. Right? It commenced the Okpila plant in Edo State.
Yes.
And they have 309 billion naira road construction swaps.
So similar to MTN.
Absolutely more.
Right.
MTN is just starting. Dangote has been there. I mean, this is huge. And more than anything else, they have the African initiative. So the Road and Belt Initiative of China across African countries, these guys are all over the place. They are ubiquitous, but they are really growing. So it's a substantial thing. Now let's go to Total. The downstream sector has been decimated, killed, subsidies, and all sorts of scandals. But this sector, this company grew by 132% revenue. in a sector that grew negative -2. So in effect, they outperformed the economy by 135%.
Huge.
Right? They had a loss, previous year loss of 374 million. Now they've gone to a profit, huge profit of 5 billion naira. So now the question is, what will the impact of the Dangote Refinery, which is not a quoted company for, and the refinery initiatives of the federal government have on downstream companies like Total? I think that's important. The refinery, the Dangote Refinery and Petrochemical Complex and Fertilizer project is a fully integrated, single train, cutting edge, modern technology for the whole of West Africa and Central Africa, for that matter, because refineries are now go by the hub syndrome.
Yes.
So you have one in Singapore, in Rotterdam, in Houston. Because it's a scale. Don't forget, refineries are low margin, high volume business.
Indeed.
So that is why the federal government of Nigeria, Federal Executive Council, approved this kind of investment, a stake.
40% stake, yeah.
Okay, so what's in it? Dangote is not a philanthropist. He's there to make money. Nigeria has a responsibility also to provide downstream products. We're talking about aviation fuel, one of the most expensive output. All of this is put together. Of course, the Dangote Refinery comes under a lot of scrutiny. And so
did you want to?
Yeah, maybe you have a question on that.
Yeah, yes. I wanted to get your thoughts on. I mean, AMCON has come out to rubbish it, of course, saying that it's not true that there's any debts owed. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
First, the thing about rumors is that first of all you have to scrutinize the rumors whether they make any sense. If it doesn't make sense, the typical thing is to ignore it. But in Nigeria, because of the level of ignorance, if you ignore in the land of ignorance, you actually fuel it. So it's important to make some facts clear. The story, as I read it, was that there's $8 billion of debt service. For you to pay interest of $8 billion, the nominal loan itself should be in excess of about $150 billion. The economy of Nigeria, the total economy of Nigeria is about $400 and something billion.
Right.
It would mean that one company in Nigeria is owing half of the entire country. So it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Nigeria as a country pays about $3 billion a year in interest. How can a company within Nigeria pay twice in interest, pay twice the total interest of the entire country? So I would have ignored it, but I think it's clear that, of course, there's vested interest. There are people who are afraid of the entire irreversible momentum of change, not just by Dangote Group, but the irreversible momentum of change across the whole of West Africa. Things will consolidate. African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and things are going to consolidate. So, first and foremost, let's make it clear that the story has no basis. It doesn't make sense. And third, let us look at the inevitability of that change, right, of people investing in sectors that will grow. For example, the whole of Saudi Arabia's total oil earnings in 1 year is $145 billion. It will mean that if a company has loans of Dangote's refineries loans will be in excess of the total oil earnings of Saudi Arabia, which is the largest oil producer in OPEC and all of that.
Yeah.
So, 1. 2, is this the time to be investing hugely in this kind of business? Yes, it is, because look at, we say that we are spending we are consuming 103 million liters of petrol a day. Well, obviously that is false and exaggerated.
Right.
But it is time that most of these things are done domestically to create jobs and to ensure that there's, there's sanctity of production and that people can get the products when they want it. I think that's important. Now, we will spend a few minutes talking about some other sectors, Nigerian breweries, for example. Okay,
Nigerian breweries.
Nigerian breweries is interesting. Revenue up 51% to 103 billion naira. Huge. But at a time when drinking has actually declined. But what has happened? Because of the COVID, the lockdown and pandemic, parties were controlled, bars were controlled. So Does it mean that Nigerians were drinking that much at home? Well, not so. What it does mean to me is that the controls and the restrictions have been meaningless because there are parties. There are, I watch programs and people are celebrating, and Nigerians are not about to compromise their weddings,
right,
their funerals, their birthdays, any reason to celebrate. So what we have seen is the total beverage and alcohol business has shifted in structure. So we are seeing more people drinking what you call ready to drink. We've seen more people drinking spirits because they are now miniaturizing them. You have rum, whiskey, and brandy, and all of those, cognac, all in smaller bottles. We are seeing more of this being targeted at the bottom of the pyramid, drivers, bricklayers, and all of them, drinking rum. So, and less of beer, less of stout,
yes,
and more of malt, more of sugar-free drinks. But the other thing that we've noticed is that the youth, the younger people, back in the day, people go out to parties, they drink. If you start with beer, you end with beer. You drink stout, you end with stout. But now we've seen mixtures.
Right.
People go, they mix spirits with alcohol, brew drinks, beer, mix it with stout, mix it with RTDs, and mix it with vodka and all of that. So maybe the composition of the younger people these days are much stronger, right? So they don't have the
tolerance.
Yeah, they don't have the hangovers.
Right.
But that's an interesting thing. I think the last of these companies is Nestle.
Nestle, okay.
Oh, Nestle, coffee, Maggie Cube, Milo, Golden Morn. So
diverse.
What you're seeing here is industrial processing of commodities, agricultural commodities, from maize to cocoa, right, to sugar, and all of this is being done at the same time. They've reported a growth of 19% to 84 billion naira. While others are suffering, but what you have is the dominance and the sheer muscle and financial clout of Nestle is playing out. And if you look at all of these companies that we've talked about today, from Total to Dangote to MTN, their stock prices have done very well. So what I would like to say is that while the market is choppy, while investors are tentative, look out for those stocks where, one, the companies are dominant in it. They have financial clout. They have muscle. And more than anything, don't just look at profits. Look at the free cash flow. In all of these companies, their free cash flow is just rising as fast as their profit is. So because like they say, profit before tax is vanity, dividend is reality.
Indeed. The CEO of Financial Derivatives Company Limited, also managing director, and of course, member of President Buhari's Presidential Economic Advisory Council, Mr. Bismarck Rewane. Thank you so much for taking us through these earnings. Actually, I just have a few seconds to go. Do you see them continuing this trend to close out the year? Briefly.
Yes. Why do I say that? Because the vaccines are here. I hope we go by them. So if we are getting 29 million J&J, which is one dose, and we're getting 4 million Moderna, by the time you put that together, I think we'll go from 1% of the population being vaccinated to about almost 25 to 30%. That will give us herd immunity, because don't forget, 50% of our population are below 15.
All right. Okay. Mr. Bismarck Rewane, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.